Cassie, are you ready for viewer takeover? She's just interested in being prissy. Here you go. Here you go. You ready? Star, you ready for some viewer takeover? Oh, you want to play some fetch first? Here we go. And she's gone. She's relentless. She eventually brings it back. There she comes. Good girl. Good girl. You ready for viewer takeover? Huh? You are? Hey, this is Stephen Cardwell, Kill Artist 1. Here's viewer takeover.
This is Viewer Takeover. We film every Monday night, bring it to YouTube not every Tuesday, most Tuesdays.
Sometimes it's on a Tuesday.
Sometimes we do our absolute best with what we're given, and we weren't given very much. My name's Brian Paul from this channel right here, PSVR without parole, and the gentleman to my right, the boys, Dave from Dave Station VR.
VR.
And that guy on the far right hand side of your screen, I guess we're moving right along, AJ from the Underground, PSVR Underground.
What's up, Brian? What's up, Dave? What's up, Game Cats? Man, I have been taking this opportunity to grab some of the few games I didn't have from this massive PlayStation sale and have been clearing out a much-needed backlog of knocking out some older titles that I never got around to. And it's been fun, man. Been having a blast this week.
And every week on Viewer Takeover, we like to thank a whole lot of people. It's the first thing we do here, and the first person we want to thank, of course, Stephen Cardwell, the Kill Artist 1. Did I say the Kill Artist 1? Kill Artist 1, the Dreamweaver. We're not going to sing. I swear we're not going to sing.
I feel like we've done it a lot, and I was ready for us to go to a three-part harmony with the Dreamweaver.
Oh, God, I'm actually sick to my stomach right now.
You can't keep that in there.
This is what we're looking for when it comes to Viewer Takeover introductions. We got to see Steven. We got to see his cat. We got to see the cat play fetch. How great is this?
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, not many cats fetch. A lot of them do, though, and that's pretty
Mine
awesome how they
wakes
do that.
me up. It paws at me and gives me a toy and says, throw it. And I go, okay, now this is what we're doing for the next hour.
Carlos doesn't do fetch. He just lays in various places. He just hopped into my my dresser. He's taking a nap in my dresser all of a sudden.
Kill Artist also has he's been, speaking of dreams, he's working on one called The Warrior's Call.
Oh,
and
yeah, I played it.
it's
Cool
a nice little nice little like woodsy environment where it's going to be some kind of like adventure game. It's pretty cool. It's like kind of like a wilderness adventure with like some mystical stuff going on, but he's got that smooth, sweet southern accent, doesn't he? But it sounds really cool. Love it in the game.
Yeah.
If you want to introduce next week's Viewer Takeover, make sure you send your short, sweet, seductive, smooth southern accent introduction to withoutparole@gmail.com. Also, Steven sent his like months ago, and last week I was like, we don't have any more in the queue, and he was like, So please,
I already sent it. Yeah.
Right. So if you haven't seen yours, then send it again. Send it again, man, and we'll get it right up in front at the front of the queue. Maybe you'll see it on next week's show. But Kill Artist isn't the only one we want to thank this week. We also want to thank these illustrious people down here, the fluffiest of the fluffy. These are people who went to patreon.com/withoutparole.
Games?
They're the ones giving us $1 or more every single month. We really appreciate it, guys. You're the ones keeping the channel running. People think that like YouTubers make money, and that's not really the case.
Yeah, it's not really true.
Right. So we appreciate all of you. If you like what you see, consider heading over there and hooking us up with just $1 or more every month. But AJ, who else we want to thank?
Brian, we would like to thank those who support us in another way by changing their name to something GameCat, something GameCat related, something GameCat adjacent, as you and something GameCat adjacent like to say. And this week, I think we set a new record, guys.
Yeah.
Because we have 7 new GameCats to welcome to the GameCat Dojo.
Do we even have room in the dojo for all these people? We need to
there's
get some new
plenty of
cots. We need to buy
Remember-
some cots. We need to buy some sleeping bags.
We get it covered, man. We got a big ass dojo. All are welcome.
Apparently so, yeah.
You know,
You think I have to start doubling up in the beds?
Yeah, sorry, guys.
Yeah, everyone snuggle.
starting with the enemy of my enemy is my hashtag GameCat.
Yeah.
I love it. And of course, hotcakes.
Yeah, of course.
He's keeping
I
it
like
up.
this concept. It's a whole phrase. It's not even a name with a lot of words. It's a whole thought. You know.
I also like the thought ends with the enemy of my enemy is my friend with hashtag GameCat. Same thing.
Yeah.
Right. GameCats are our friends. Who else we got, AJ?
We've got LJ, the RE7 Game Cat, PSN, LJ Don't Die.
LJ don't die.
I know Brian likes that one because it's an RE7 reference. And yes, are
Yeah.
you thinking the same thing I was thinking? That
Yeah.
is that also hotcakes? I actually thought that was hotcakes when I first saw it.
No, my
But
vision's just going in my old age, and I couldn't read it properly, so I was getting real close. Yeah, I love when they get all of their information out there in their name, right? It's like Harry Fella, right? It's like he's got his PSN name in there. Excellent. LJ Don't Die.
address.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, and it's a Resident Evil 7 reference. He uses Jack as his avatar, so I know you like that one.
Big time. Big time.
We've also got Kevin, the cool Game Cat.
Kevin Ferguson,
I like this
you're the
one.
motherfucking shit. I love it.
Oh
I like
yeah,
this one a lot with the K's.
Kimbo
It reminds me of
Slice.
like they'd have a place where it was called like Kids Corner, and it'd be like KIDZKORNER.
Yeah.
This is what his name reminds me of. It's got the game Cat with a K.
Yeah,
That's an
but-
unusual twist. We don't see it very often.
There's one too many K's in this name.
Yeah,
I think there's
oh,
three.
I guess
There's three too many.
One of our mods in our mod chat was like, should we keep an eye on this guy? Because those are some uppercase K's. That we see. And there's exactly 3 of them.
He's okay. He's okay, guys.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's fine.
All right.
He's
Doesn't have
fine.
round checks, and he's
Rip Kimbo. All right, we've also got Mike Ferris, the Game Bunny, not Game Cat. We've got a Game Bunny now, guys.
How fucking defiant is this dude? Mike Ferris. He's like,
not.
like
He's
he could
not a game cat.
right. He could be like Game Bunny. Look how adorable I am. Instead, he's like not fucking Game Cat. Take that, Brian. I'm like, okay. I kind of love it anyway, though.
I mean,
Bunnies rule, cats drool, right? I'm just talking to him specifically. He loves bunnies, apparently.
yeah, reminds me of Jumping Flash. I like it.
I drool.
We've got Seymour Game Cats.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I approve this name change because his name was originally Seymour Beaver, and every stream, every games cast, everything, I couldn't say his full name. I'd be like, "Hey, what's up, Seymour?"
Right.
I was like, "I'm not falling for that one, man."
So
Now I can say,
it's a lot more PG now. I like
Yeah.
it. Okay.
"Yeah, it's cool." You know, there's some children around, so it's all good. Fuck.
So I'm glad that you went through and explained the whole thing. That's no longer an issue. Yeah.
Kids don't like viewer takeover. Actually, no one likes viewer
Yeah.
takeover. So
Hey,
We've
that's
got
true.
2
It's
more.
just for us, guys. It's literally just for us.
We've got 2 more here, gents. We've got Scallywag, the Buccaneer Game Cat.
Arr, yes, matey. Welcome aboard.
absolutely. Just
Dave.
reading the name off makes me want to go play some rum and bass.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah. I want a pirate game.
Battlewake. You got Battlewake already.
Yeah.
Oh, and I will say Table of Tales is a pirate game.
I'm sorry. I want a pirate
Table of Tales.
adventure. Table of Tales is the best pirate game on PSVR.
Yes.
That
There's
or-
that shitty pirate game called like the Six Sails or the Six Seas or something. I don't know. It's got some name like that.
Actually,
You
I
guys-
actually like that one. Yeah.
I didn't like it that much.
Yeah. Okay.
Finally, we've got Gamer Freddy YT Game Cat with 4s for A's.
He's got the lead speak again. We're seeing more of this lead speak. I like it.
Yes. Cody.
Absolutely. Gamer Freddy. I wonder if his real name is Freddy or if he's just a Freddy Krueger fan.
Or a Freddy Fazbear fan. We got
That's-
FNAF.
Probably
Oh, God.
way more likely. Way
Yeah.
more likely.
Hell yeah, man. Love me some FNAF, dog.
If you change your name to Game Cat because you like us almost as much as we love you, that worked. Make sure you put hashtag GameCat in the comments below so we can give you a shout out on next week's show. But Dave, what do we really do here on Viewer Takeover?
Well, what we do is we basically we collect questions from all over the internet and we put them into this big thing that's kind of like, you know, you've seen those lottery pickers. They roll it around and then one rolls out and then I'm the attractive lady who pulls it out and tells you what the number is. So that's basically the same concept. But we look all over the place. We've got YouTube comments. If you leave a hashtag viewer takeover, we will find them and put them in the show if they make the cut. And also on our Discord, which you should have already signed up for, and the link is below. We have a whole channel dedicated to viewer takeover. So there are a lot of ways to get us these questions, but this week we got 3 questions from the community. And the very first one comes from a longtime viewer, Billy Paw the Game Cat. And he left a comment on PSVR this week, and he says, on Gamescast Live, you started talking about what you expect from a $20 VR game, and it seems that $20 doesn't get us nearly as much as it used to. With development costs and inflation on the rise, should we start lowering our standards for smaller indie games? Big question. Who wants to kick it off?
I'm a little curious to see what happens next generation. Before we even really dive deep into Billy Paw's question, there's been a lot of talk about games like AAA games being $70 next gen. So I'm wondering if the $20 games of this gen are going to be the $30 games of next gen. And so I wonder if that all kind of like, rolls into the question here together.
Ubisoft has already confirmed that their next gen games kicking off will be $60. So it's going to be a game by game basis, most likely. And I don't recommend to developers out there to charging $70 for your game unless, they do have like other ways of doing this. They've got, no, we've already been gorged enough for some of these games with microtransactions that we don't want. Sometimes some paid content. We've been lucky with PSVR for how many free updates we get. And, I think Crisis Brigade has one of the best models where they start with one level. It's very, very cheap. They kind of emulated like early access, how it's a small game, but they realize it's a small game. And yeah, it was $6. They added another level, then it was $8. Then they added a level, then it was like $10 or something. I've always liked that kind of model of building your game that way.
Well, so let me ask you this, AJ, because I really do feel like Crisis Brigade 1 is one of the best games on the PlayStation Store, or one of the best values for PlayStation VR. That's where I should have been. But I understand, it looks pretty primitive, but like there's a lot of stuff going on. It's very challenging. It's a lot of fun. The multiplayer got patched in, all these other levels, lots of good stuff. So whatever it is, what, $10, $12 now, whatever it is, it's a great value. What do you find Crisis Brigade 2 at $20 to be as good of a value?
I mean, from a technical standpoint, yes. But if I were them, I would have put it at 15 to sell it like hotcakes. I don't think it's they could have sold well, but the problem is this is the big thing that I've factored in now. The competition. The competition is much higher than it used to be. So sometimes when games were starting out, some could get away with being a little higher priced and stuff. People weren't happy about it though, so they didn't really get away for it for long. But yeah, I mean, you just want to you want to be competitive in this market. That's going to make how you make your game stick out. I think I think Crisis Brigade probably could have done well, but I think at $20 you've got another option like Blood and Truth, which is currently on sale for $14 and stuff. So, $20 seems right, but then you say, oh, I can get Astrobot and Blood and Truth for that price pretty much. And then it's like, no. So to me, it kind of is dictated by what the market is doing and just having a good read on that.
Yeah, I think the thing that stuck out to me about this question is the idea that $20 doesn't get us nearly as much as it used to, because I kind of take issue with that. I don't agree with that entirely. And what you were just saying in the last few sentences there, I think kind of point to the fact that it's always situational what $20 will get you. Blood and Truth wasn't a $14.99 game when it came out. It was a $40, $50. Was 40, 50, something like that? 40. And now the base price is lowered because it's been out for a while and it's like a classics, greatest hit, whatever kind of thing. And, that happens where if you get into it at this point, a new $20 game maybe can't compete against Blood and Truth at 15. But you can't really hold that against the developers who are releasing it because $20 is still, for a lot of these games, a reasonable price point. I want to say Swordsman VR, for instance, is going to be 20, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the perfect amount of content for $20. It's got the right level of polish for $20. There's enough stuff to do in it and unlock that for me says there are still $20 games that are priced properly. But if you look back in the past, like for launch, in terms of like doesn't get us as much as it used to. Like Thumper was 20 at launch, right? But Super Hypercube was 40. And there is no fucking reason Super Hypercube should be $40.
Was
No.
it 40?
And so
Seriously?
it was 40. Yeah, it was 40.
Damn.
Actually, for a long time, it stayed 40. It's down now. I think it's 20 or 15. But for the longest time, it was $40. And, the value proposition has always been sort of skewed in the market for PSVR and just VR games in general. You always just have to take prices with a grain of salt and sort of assess the game on its merits on a case-by-case basis. But I think there is not a lack of $20 games that are great still coming out. Right. And I think that even in the beginning, there were $20 games that were great and $40 games that were mediocre.
I 100% agree because I mean, you look back at. I'm trying to remember on the PlayStation 2 there was a subdivision of IDOS called Fresh Games, and they were bringing Japanese games over to the American market, and it was games like Ka, which ended up being Mr. Mosquito, and Mad Maestro, and I think R-Type Delta. I can't remember which R-Type game it was. It's probably R-Type Final. I could be wrong. And they were bringing them over at like super discounted prices. It's like on PlayStation 2 being like $20 games. I'm trying to remember if they were $20 or $30 games back then. And it's absolutely insane to look. Here we are, like almost 20 years later, and we're still getting like this flood of games for that $20 to $30 price point, which means that video games have somehow circumvented inflation. And I don't know how that happened. I think because maybe the video game adoption has grown in scale, and so people are able to sell more copies of their game than they used to be able to. And that's the only reason, because development costs have done nothing but go up. And video game prices have done nothing but stay the same. And when you account for inflation, they're actually cheaper than they've ever been.
I mean, it's to create a game, like a lot of these indie hits that we see, these little indie darling, like $15, $20 games that blow up, online, and people get really into, like Untitled Goose Game, something like that, for instance. Yep. The development cost of a game like that these days is much, much lower than what it would cost to have made a game for the PS2, because you don't have the tools that easily available to disperse it to everybody the way that you do now. And I think, most development kits, Unity and stuff like that, don't really charge you to use their software until you start making money anyways. So the development cost is really just time and effort a lot of times.
There's a simple way I divide it. Like an indie game, like a really, really small indie game where you get like an hour or two out of it, needs to be anywhere from like $5 to $15 max. 15 being like if it's super polished or something. There's three things I look for basically is number one, like how polished it is, like the quality of it, how deep of a game it is. And then there's also like the overall experience, like how good is the experience. And those are actually like the two big things, I should say, not three, but two, like the gameplay depth and then like the experience of it. And then maybe like the polish overall. But, $20, once you get into $20, $30 range, I'm looking at like maybe AA quality, or at least something that could pass as AA VR games. And then like $40 to me is like where the AAA needs to be. Something like, Blood and Truth was only like 5 hours long at the time, but it was like the quality, the presentation, everything to it really made up for a lot of that. So, for me, a $20 game, a good example of a $20 game is something like Immortal Legacy or Evasion, Zing or Catch and Release, where it's a really polished game, and you get at least about 4 or 5 hours out of it. Is what I'm looking for out of a $20 game. If it's like two hours or something, it's got to be, unless it's just like the most amazing experience in the world. It needs to be under 20 for me.
That's why these conversations are always so tough. I mean, sometimes we compare games that launched at $20 to games that launched at $40 and are currently on sale for less than $20. So these conversations are always complicated. But
Rush of Blood
launched at $20, right? That is the perfect $20 game in my book.
Same.
Yeah.
That's what I imagine is like a perfect $20 game, Rush of Blood.
Right, multiple difficulty levels, leaderboards, tons of replayability, just tons of polish, just a whole lot of fun. Right, it's really hard to find any complaints about that game. The flip side of the coin is a game like Separation that launches at an extremely fair price, $12.99. It's a $13 game, and it was one of my favorites of the past year. And it's like, sometimes price just doesn't convince people to pick it up, and that's really disappointing. I feel like Martin should have priced that game at $20. So for the limited number he would have sold, he would have at least made a lot more money off of it.
Oh, but I feel like we already talked about like level of polish, level of quality, and length of a game going into what makes a good $20 game. And if you're putting up Separation against Rush of Blood, it's nowhere near a $20 game. It shouldn't be a $20 game. It should be an $8 game at that, if you're using that as your baseline. So I think that it's always shifting. What is a $20 game worth? It's contextual. It's not. There is no one size fits all answer to this.
I agree.
Right, where Rush of Blood gives you like this visceral thrill of being on a roller coaster and shooting things and like the horror vibe that I love. Separation gave me something completely different, like wildly different. It gave me like an emotional journey with awesome music and 8 hours of. It took me like 7 or 8 hours to beat that the first time through, and I was like, I loved every minute of it. And for me, think of all the games that you can beat way faster that cost way more. It's certainly not as polished as something like Red Faction. Red Faction's a $30 game, right?
Red Matter.
Shit, damn it,
Jeremy. I love Red Faction, dude. I love Red Faction.
I mean, I love Red Faction too. Yeah, Red Matter. You can blast through in like 3 or 4 hours, but it's got a ton of polish to it. And so, where's the balance here? Right, and it's also $10 more. It's $10 more than this base level price that we're talking about, $20. It's $30. It's more than twice as much as Separation, but it's half as long and 3 times as polished. So that's why it's so tough to have these conversations. Like the scales are always moving.
Yeah, and when you bring in Separation, it really goes to show like some of the criteria we have for what makes a $20 game doesn't matter if you personally resonate with that game after you've played it, though, after you've bought it and started to play it. Because so most people out there would see a video of Separation and be like, these environments are totally barren, this is really low res, I don't see what the game is here, why should I play this? Almost everybody in the world would look at Separation and say that. If you look at Rush of Blood as an outsider, you're like, whoa, this looks wild. I want to play this right now. This looks like the coolest VR thing ever. Whereas Separation doesn't really give off that vibe. And you can say that it's worth that much money because you played it all the way through and you gave it the chance to have that emotional resonance with you. But the person who's sitting there with their wallet looking at the store doesn't know about that and can't have that experience. And so for them, $12.99 probably seems steep for a game that looks and mechanically on the surface appears to be as simplistic as a game like Separation is.
Luckily, we do reviews, and so no one has to look at the storefront and be uneducated any longer. We've got you covered.
That's true.
All right, guys. Next question comes to us from Donatello, the scientist game cat, rare over on Discord. He writes #viewer_takeover. I really loved playing and replaying Bonfire. There are a few gaming elements, but we all agree that you would classify Bonfire as an experience. How would you describe the difference between a game and an experience? Do you have a few other dreams or PS4 experiences that you have enjoyed? I think we're all going to be in agreement on this one that Bonfire is like one of the best experiences on PlayStation VR.
If not the best, and yes, it is. It's like an interactive movie. It's that fine line between being a movie and actually having stuff that you can do. You don't die in the game. You don't lose in the game. But you do have to do certain things to push the game forward, and some are optional. I love Bonfire. He was telling us how much he is enjoying it. It's on sale right now for $2, and yeah, I can't recommend it enough, man. It's definitely like what I believe to be like the epitome, the shining example of what some of these experiences, short film kind of interactive experiences, are supposed to be. Yes.
Yeah, and I would love to see. So these are the kind of things that originally, I think a lot of times start out at film festivals, because film festivals now have a separate VR presentation section where they rank and rate stuff that are these sort of VR experiences, kind of like Bonfire. They may or may not be interactive. Stuff like The Crow, I think, also came from these sorts of origins. And it's interesting to see, what people are doing in terms of like trying to take that artistic angle on stuff and put a little something extra into it. But unfortunately, most of that doesn't end up on the PSVR. For instance, this year there was a big film festival that had a VR thing, but they canceled the in-person, event. On Oculus on PC, you could get in and see all of those movies for free. Every VR experience they had that was going to be at that film festival was free. PSVR doesn't get stuff like that, and I don't know why they don't angle for it a little more. Because it seems like Sony's just focused on games for the most part. There's these experiences that get through, but there's so much stuff out there like this that we're not getting yet, and I hope that we do get in the future.
Yeah, one of those that we haven't gotten yet is the Big C.
The Big C, yeah, that's
right.
on Oculus. Yeah,
right. It's made by Secret Location, people who made Transpose, Blasters of the Universe, and it's just, awesome. It's supposed to be an awesome story that's told, and you get to watch whatever. It's we have a bunch of great ones. I think that Alamet, I think it's fantastic. But not, it's kind of weird trying to classify these things now, right? Because Alamet, you just sit back and watch, and you poke your head through different walls, and you can sort of watch the entire thing play out. But then there's things like Bonfire and Manifest 99, where it does require some input from the player. So it's it kind of borders on that experience game border. And
yeah. I feel like the Rhombus of Ruin Psychonauts is very similar too. It's longer. It's more like a full episode or something, like a short movie. But it is the same thing. Where is it a game? Is it an experience? You're really just looking at stuff to interact with it, but it has that interactivity still, even though it's really just a passive experience.
Said it several times before that a game is going to have the better chance of having a great experience. That's probably what makes Bonfire such a great experience are the game elements in it. And yeah, I've said, dating back to the Ace Combat 7 review, is that I love games that do stuff like this because they just do it better. Experiences, there's a lot of janky bad experiences on the PlayStation Store, and there's a lot of stuff that are just intentionally supposed to be just visual media that you watch and enjoy, and most of it's garbage, to be honest with you. There's a couple different apps and stuff, and they're not good.
We have had some actually pretty cool stuff. I don't remember if you guys saw back in the day, there was this violinist that they did a 3D video captured performance of, and it had 6 degrees of freedom. You could move around the scene, and it was crystal clear. It was this incredible video performance. One of the best VR videos I've seen, and you could move around in it, which was kind of mind-blowing at the time. And they haven't really done anything like that since, unfortunately.
There's the Richie's Plank experience, which I used to give a lot of crap to. I was not a fan of it. It was back to the price as well. It was $15, and it lasted literally 10 minutes long or something.
Yeah.
And I was really upset with it, but they did some major updates to it, updated the quality of it, updated the content of it. And it's actually, it came back and became one of my more favorite experiences as well.
Really?
But
I feel it's still not worth $15.
Yeah, I wouldn't go crazy for it for $15, but it is definitely a lot better because they still, to me, in VR, unless it's just some amazing short film, which I have really yet to see. I did like Alamet in terms of short films, but I think VR is all about immersion, and you want to take advantage of that by having some VR interactive elements to them.
Yeah, what I'd like to see is more stuff like the DreamWorks Voltron VR Chronicles, because that is basically an experience. It's like an episode of a show. It's an hour long, and very much just sitting there, watch plot stuff happen. But then there's game segments, and they're all these unique little gameplay things that you just do once, and then you move on to the next bit. But some of them are pretty inspired. And as a package, you're okay, well, it wasn't a game, it wasn't an experience. It was somewhere that hit that middle mark just perfectly, like Bonfire does, where you interact with things, you do have some agency, and you can affect the outcome of things. So
Bonfire is 110% probably my favorite experience that's designed to be an experience. He also mentions you have a few other Dreams. Dreams is wonderful for this because there's so many. If you look at stuff that says Expo or sets, last night I was looking through Halloween stuff, and there was the Nightmare Before Christmas Town in VR that you can just kind of explore and walk around and look at, and it looks stunning. It looked graphically looked amazing. And that was just an experience in itself. And I'm just here just kind of, tinkering around, just having some fun. One of my other favorites, there's a lot of audio visual ones. It's called Voxel God, VOXELGOD. And it's basically just kind of like this trippy music video, but it has really good lighting and special effects and 3D depth. Dude, there are a lot of Dreams experiences that are amazing and worth checking out. Absolutely, for days and days and days.
Specifically, a Dreams experience thing, they don't have this much in any other platform. But if you're into like theme parks, like Disney, Universal, all this stuff, there is a group of people recreating all these like in an experiential kind of way where you walk through the line, you stand in the lobby, like a TV comes on and tells you what's about to happen in the Twilight Zone ride. Like they put a lot of effort into the experiential nature of like getting on this Disney ride. And especially with everybody being cooped up and like, who wants to go to a theme park right now? Those are these little things you can get out of Dreams that it's like, oh, cool, just a little thing to hop into and experience this world for a little bit, go on the ride, and then, check out the next thing. Dreams is full of that stuff. So if you guys don't have it yet and you like experiential, VR stuff, definitely. It's endless on there.
Nice. And who's got the last question on this epic viewer takeover?
We've got Belramio, our newest mod. Welcome aboard, man, from the Discord. Says #viewer takeover. Do you think every VR game should have VR in its name? I know it might be stupid, but that way you could much easier find them, identify them. Clicking around PAX/EGX, long list of games, it would help me so much to see, VR, let's take a look. What do you guys think?
I got a quick answer for this one.
Yeah.
I'm going to say no. I don't like that idea because here's a main reason. Things that have a VR at the end of them usually indicate that there is also a flat version somewhere, and this is the VR. So Super Hot VR, right? It's not Super Hot, it's Super Hot VR. Skyrim VR. Most things that end up with a VR on the end of them had a previous incarnation that was not VR. Borderlands 2 VR. These are the only ones I can think of. There's like other ones like, VR Invaders or something like that. But it's like, does it even need to be called that? It's in VR, obviously. What do you expect? I think they should have a little tag on the listing that says this is in VR or parentheses that says VR. But I don't think we should. I don't think we should make VR games put VR in the title because it could be silly in a lot of cases. Like, I think Swordsman VR sounds sillier than Swordsman.
Agreed.
And honestly, in their marketing material, the newest trailer you posted, it doesn't say Swordsman VR. It says Swordsman. And I think that's a much better way to market stuff. So I think adding VR makes it sound gimmicky even sometimes, too. Just like, I don't know. This is the game. That's what it's called.
Yeah,
what do you guys think?
I used to make fun of VR games, and I probably still do, that put VR in the title. Because I think it reminds me of the Super Nintendo days where every single game was Super Metroid, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Super whatever, right? And then N64, everything was whatever 64.
64,
And so I go, okay, here we are. We're in the VR phase of gaming history where everything has to have VR at the end of it. That being said, it's nice to see games that say something VR, to know 100%, before you even watch the trailer, you're like, oh, this is a new VR game. It is still very niche, and I think that you have to focus on your niche audience when you announce your game. And I don't want every game to be called VR, but I think it's in the developers and publishers' best interest to alert your audience when you're making something for them. So do I want it? No. Should they have it? Probably. That's my best answer.
Would be if you're clicking around on the internet and looking for VR stuff, it's going to make it a lot easier to find. So if you want to be discovered more, if you don't have, you need some kind of tag that says VR to help to expedite that.
But this is an alternative. Every other console, that. So if it's an Xbox game that's only on Xbox, it's listed as an Xbox game. There's a tag there somewhere. You see somewhere that it's an Xbox only game in the way that they list stuff. Like if I go to Metacritic, I see Xbox, PS4, Switch, all this stuff separately. If they just made PSVR a platform and said, hey, this is its own platform, we're listing it as a PSVR title, and there's a tag that says PSVR, and then you know what you're looking at. It comes out on only this platform. I know it's VR. So, I mean, I don't think they should have to shove the letters VR on every game.
No, I actually agree. It doesn't always sound that great. I think, but they
Like,
do need some
Truth
kind
VR
of
sounds like shit. Like,
yeah.
if you add VR to a lot of Moss VR, that
Yeah,
sounds stupid.
yeah.
Like,
Another example that I think, but what it does have to have is some kind of tag in the name to make itself like recognizable. Like the biggest example, you've got Iron Man VR, right? Which sounds pretty basic when you kind of think about it. It could be like Iron Man and the something wars or something. But then you've got the Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, and it's like everybody knows that's a VR game. Although a lot of people do ask, though, they do get that question where they say, "Oh, this is VR. I wish this was flat, also, or whatever." But I think having a tag like that, like Saints and Sinners, Onslaught, Iron Man, something, versus VR, I think is just more creative. Maybe sticks out a little bit more. Maybe it makes it a little bit more distinguishable.
yeah, I mean, Half-Life Alyx sounds better than Half-Life VR.
Yeah,
It's like Half-Life : VR. People
Yeah.
are like, that's lame.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, I would love to get rid of the VR tag altogether. So yeah, I mean, if it's possible to market these things and still alert your audience that it's coming, it's something that they're interested in without using the letters VR. I mean, you mentioned Blood and Truth, you mentioned Half-Life Alyx. These are huge games by huge developers, huge publishers who have the marketing materials and marketing money to advertise to their niche market.
Well, yeah, and
It's not always the case.
they also have a product that I think has to differentiate itself, or should differentiate itself by having a unique name. Whereas like a lot of stuff that has VR in the title is so basic, just like arcadey. Like you can say, "Oh, VR Invaders," and I know this is Space Invaders in VR, basically, because you're marketing a very straightforward, like budget kind of arcade experience. And I think that's where the VR tag gets inserted a lot of the time, unless it's an existing game that already, Skyrim, you have to put VR on the end. You can't just say it's Skyrim, because that wouldn't make sense.
It would get really confusing. Guys, thank you so much for all of the viewer takeover questions. If you don't like the questions that we answered this week, then you know whose fault that is. That's your fault, because you didn't ask any questions or you didn't ask better questions. So make sure you leave your comment down below in the comments with the hashtag viewer takeover, all one word, or join our Discord, which you should do anyway. Click the link in the description, join Discord, and leave your viewer takeover question in the viewer takeover channel. Also, change your name to GameCat. That wasn't a request, that was a demand. But hashtag GameCat in the comments below so we can give you a shout out on next week's show. Also, I think Stephen Cardwell's introduction was the last one we have in the queue. I don't really know because I'm super disorganized. If you already sent one in, just send it again. And if you have a new one to send it on in. Maybe you'll introduce next week's show, withoutparole@gmail.com. Hit us up patreon.com/withoutparole games for just $1 or more every single month. Games. Sorry, I didn't wait. And and that's pretty much it, guys. Make sure you subscribe to Dave over at DayStation VR. Subscribe to AJ over at PSVR Underground. My name is Brian Paul. This is PSVR Gamescast, not live. This is Viewer Takeover. I know, I got the whole thing right until the very last second.
It was almost as long as a Viewer Takeover. Or, I mean, God damn it.
And we're out. Big smiles, everybody. Yeah, I take it back.